always been a concern. We've seen it out there, but the elimination of POTS lines are really becoming more and more a preeminent threat. Well, some LECs are decommissioning lines, others are just invoking outrageous prices for customers out there. So I'm here today with Jackie, marketing guru, who's not on camera. She's the behind the scenes person that makes this all happen. I'm here with also Paul West, who is our Director of Product Marketing, and David Neely, our CRO, who's going to be on the hot seat today. So David, welcome and appreciate the time. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I'm sorry. I do want to let you know that we will be recording this call, and the recording will be available after the call. If you have questions, please feel free to put those questions in the chat. And if you could mute your phone, that would be great. We're hearing some background noise, so if you could please mute your phone, we would appreciate it. Thank you. All right, David, let's get started. So for years, we've heard that POTS lines, are going away. I know you're a lot older than me, many, many years older than me.
Oh boy, we're starting off like that.
Right? And he's my boss, right? No, so for a long time, we've been talking about forbearance, right? And the fact that these things are going to start happening, that the POTS lines are going to go away, and it's frankly, it's been years. So now it's happening. It's happening at a rapid rate, and CLEC and LECs are no longer want to support POTS lines. And they're decommissioning them or moving them to fiber. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think, I think the FCC did a decent job. I think, it's like all of us, we don't read all of the fine print. So this was announced back in February of 2020 that the LECs would allow them to basically take 6 months, and then they can no longer sell any uni or any analog loop requirements or any POTS lines, basically plain old telephone service. And ultimately, that's what's starting to occur is some of the LECs are decommissioning some of those central offices around the country, and it's starting to affect customers out there and catch agents by surprise. We've got a couple of major suppliers that have announced the decommissioning of these central offices over the next 3 to 4 months, and people are scrambling because it really means they could lose service, or they could actually be affected by much higher rates and maybe even switching over to fiber. So it's a big impact, and it's indicative, I think. We've got a record attendance today on the call, and I think it's indicative of just how many people out there are interested in what's going on, and it's critical for people to understand that. Our product manager, Paul West, was on this subject about 18 months ago and has been monitoring it. We've got him with us today as a subject matter expert, and he can keep me honest and fill in the blanks whenever I get a little left of center. But this is a big deal, and people need to be aware of what's coming and manage their customers accordingly. And BullsEye can help is the bottom line.
Awesome. You talked a little bit about forbearance, and the decommissioning, and we know that that's led to price volatility and some of the things that we've talked about. What does it mean to the end user? You mentioned some of those things, but I mean, it can even mean, losing their phone numbers that they've had forever. What else?
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest one. People that have had phone numbers for 10 years, they might lose that. If they don't take action quickly, they could potentially lose those numbers and then be affected by really high rates out there. So it's nothing to take lightly here. This is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think, thus the name plan or pay. It's, customers have to have a migration strategy, right, to an alternative solution. That's really important, and it's really really that simple, right?
Yeah.
What happens if they don't migrate? I mean, I know there's a couple different things that could happen, but what are the two main things? Losing the phone number, service disruption, what else?
Yeah, so what they could do is they can, if they stick with their copper lines, you're basically just kind of playing, you're just rolling the dice. It's not a real good financial option. It potentially is going to start to fluctuate as far as the prices out there that the Lex can charge. Um, but I think, one of the obvious things that a lot of people can start to do is be proactive and start looking at your VoIP, your voice over internet options that you have out there. They're extremely affordable, but you can also look at POTS replacement lines that are out there. If you've got elevator lines, security lines out there, you need to start looking at some adapters or some ATAs out there to fill in there.
Yeah, it sounds pretty simple. Why do you think customers still don't have a migration plan? What do you think are some of the things driving that?
I think, honestly, they've had some of these lines for such a long time. They've taken them for granted. They just kind of forgot about some of these lines. Nobody has really done an inventory out there or seen what's still live. There's some definite implications like lines like I just talked about, elevator lines, maybe security lines, alarm lines out there, fire lines that are out there. So it's something that they need to act on pretty quickly. And again, BullsEye can help with that. We can start to do an inventory, start to take a look at what lines haven't been used in a long time, and then look for alternatives of those lines that are in use right now. And it's critical that you have the right equipment to replace these things with, because if you do have alarm or fire alarm lines or elevator lines, you need to make sure that they have backups and the right technology so that those services don't go down.
Yeah, and I think sometimes what we've heard in the market and we've heard from customers firsthand is they're not really aware of the upcoming changes. You know, you mentioned forbearance and you mentioned reading the fine print. Most of us out there don't do that. But I think it's a lot, what we're hearing is that, they don't know what's available or they just may have information overload. They've heard this for so long that this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, that they've just kind of, you know, not not done anything, right? You can't see me, not here. So I think that's what's going on in the market, what we're hearing. So
Hey,
help
Gina,
me out.
let me kind of underscore a few of the things that we've talked about, because you on these kind of calls, we can kind of go too fast. And let me back up just a tad and just kind of put this in a very big macro perspective. We've got 36 million POTS lines that are currently in the United States. That's a huge opportunity for the agents that are out there to be that trusted advisor and start working proactively with either their existing customers, or it's an opportunity to gain new customers to be that trusted advisor. BullsEye could be that trusted supplier and really aggregate all of those customers, those invoices, those multi-locations, and that's our sweet spot. So we've been doing this since 1999, 20 plus years. So I think there's, again, 36 million POTS lines is a
with our CRM team working, to get the word out with our SPMs to make sure that customers understand that we are available with solutions to, take care of those alarm lines that they may have or provide alternatives for their voice services. We want to migrate your POTS lines and then provide that glide path into a technology change. And, we do have alternatives that are provided over LTE for those rural lines, that are UL and NFPA certified, to, put at rest any regulatory authorities. in those markets that may be concerned, but ultimately we are and have been for quite some time trying to get the word out that the time is now for customers and agents to respond, and BullsEye is here and ready to do that with I think a robust portfolio of options.
Hey, Paul, can you walk us through, Paul, real quick, maybe what's the kind of physical process to go through? I mean, what do they need to do to at least begin and give us maybe some information?
Applications there are that a customer has their lines being used for, be it alarm panel, elevator, gate, door system, or if they are just strictly voice lines. So that's critical to us being able to provide the right solution and recommendations to move lines and know where to place them. But determining that use case, and then we will, as David mentioned, do a site survey, tag and locate those lines, find out what is being used, what's not being used. We'll right size that your network of POTS lines, and then be able to quote a coordinated solution, again, with our UCaaS services hosted and integrated, our Be Alert and Be Light, and other POTS alternative solutions that we have. And then, really it's moving towards implementation with the kickoff call, making sure that we understand what is the priority and manage that priority on an onboarding or conversion schedule, and then provision those solutions and make sure that they're tested and turned up appropriately.
And
Hey,
don't
Paul,
wait till you're forced to migrate, right? Don't
Right.
wait.
We don't know. The word is the time is now. We don't want to be, where you're in a situation with your back up against the wall, because much like Dave mentioned, if we run out of time because there's a decommissioning that's happening or a carrier is pulling out of a market, we don't want to lose those numbers, and we got to make sure that we have the time to do this for both us to coordinate and manage through with those losing carriers.
Hey, Paul, real quick, question kind of around that. You mentioned time. I mentioned a few dates that kind of kicked this off in 2020, but essentially the first effective date was, I think, August of 20. They had 6 months grace period to bring on new customers. But when's the end date? When does forbearance become truly effective for time?
Right. No, it's a good question. August 2nd of 2022, that is when the discounts are going to be, removed for carriers such as us and our ability to maintain on our existing embedded base. The earlier date of February 5th really marked where we, on new lines that were being brought on, would be affected from a price perspective. And there's price volatility on any new lines that are coming on board if we're using a resale platform to do so. But that February date, all discounts are gone. It's going to affect all lines across all carriers. And what that represents is just a significant, precipice for price volatility happening, well, leading up to that, but most importantly after that date, all bets are off on where pricing is going to go. It's just gotten to a crescendo already, but it's only going to get worse.
So you mentioned discounts. I mean, current rates, and again, correct me if I'm, but we're somewhere in the $50 range, right, for a current POTS line.
Right.
Once it's decommissioned after 8/2/2022, what could it go up to? If they remove the discounts, what are you seeing? And that's the last, right? So we're already seeing some decommissioning of some of the central offices and some very big suppliers out there. I think Verizon, AT&T, I've heard GTT and a few others, but what would the rates go up to?
Yeah, I mean, the sky is the limit. I mean, you can see, and it depends on the markets and the carriers, but we've seen rates as high as $750 a line, and that is no joke. I mean, there are just some ridiculous price shifts that are happening out there, and if anybody's been experiencing some of the fiber issues that have been kind of plaguing some regions of the country, well, that will become pretty much the norm. I mean, as that continues to roll out. So.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. You know, and a lot of cable cos out there put a lot of fiber in the ground. So that, you know, why do I want to maintain copper lines anymore? If the FCC's allowed me to disconnect those and not, you know, and basically charge whatever I want, they're going to move and utilize the infrastructure that they have out there, which is those fiber lines, and they put a lot of money in burying those lines. So that's, but what do we have, Paul? Can you kind of walk us through, you know, what alternatives? I touched on a few of them, but if you want to get a little bit deeper and wider, you know, the POTS replacements, what other options do we have here at BullsEye for you?
Sure. Primarily for fire life and safety applications and fax applications, we do have our Be Alert solution, which is a dual, or I'll call it a redundant solution with a primary LTE and a broadband backup. That is, I think, a great solution for not only where you have broadband, but also can be deployed in an LTE only configuration for where, you know, there's either speed to turn up or no, you know, broadband that we can connect to. Again, that's, you know, somewhat, reliant on what coverage the wireless carrier may have and where that box would be located. But that's a great solution. We also, with the cable cos and um, our B-Link product, have the ability with several cable cos to be able to offer a alarm and voice solution wherever the broadband services are available, be it with us or if those broadband services are directed to those carriers. But we can offer a, you know, a wide footprint with that. And then, of course, there is our UCAS service, our hosted and our integrated and SIP solutions that are available as well. So a broad breadth of products that are available.
And some of those products also supply some SLAs out there, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they all provide SLAs of certain degrees based on those deployment configurations, but absolutely, we stand by those.
Okay.
So Paul, or David, either one, you know, it seems like the deployment and moving to an alternative solution is pretty simple, right? Is there anything else folks should know? Maybe working with a credible company. I know there's several folks out there that say they do the same thing, but can you shed some light on that and why it's important, what needs to happen? You know, why you want to work with someone credible.
Right. Yeah, David, I can take the first punch at that one. You know, I know we talked a little bit about it earlier. I mean, Bullseye's been doing POTS for quite some time. We have been in the VoIP space for quite some time. And we do have a lot of relationships in the industry that we leverage for some of these alternative solutions. And we have, you know, a wealth of experience within our organization being able to bring these solutions to market. I think, again, the experience in the POT space allows you to, you know, be comfortable if you have your POT services with us today with your customers, or if you're considering finding a place to put those. But most importantly, that roadmap or pathway to the technological change of those POT services, we are just, you know, in the right space to do that. We have, again, the experience, the talent, we've got the solutions that are available, and we'll coordinate that. So I think the organization feels very strong about that and is, you know, ready. And again, the time is now because things are just changing so radically out there so quickly.
Let me kind of expand on it a little bit. You know, I know and Paul, you've been here for a very long time at BullsEye, so you know it's critical for a company to have the experience of migrating lines and doing it properly. It cannot be emphasized enough that if you don't have someone like a BullsEye that's been doing this for over 20 years and working with POTS and then having the capability and the staff to go through all of the steps of tag and locates, of really understanding the impact on taking down lines and moving them, doing hot cuts. You've got to have someone like ourselves that have done this before. And when we say we've been doing VoIP, it's been for 10 plus years that we've been doing this. So POTS for 20 plus years, VoIP for 10 plus years. I just can't emphasize it enough that, you know, and we've got some leave behinds, and we've got some information on the website that Gina and her team has built to really kind of put the terms and the terminology and the vernacular that's used out there. It's just hard to find the solutions out there, and BullsEye can help you. We can hold your hand through this process.
Yeah, and I think another question came up, you know, especially for our partners on the call, whether you're a partner with BullsEye or thinking about it. I know we have some customers on the call too, but we have a lot, that's a technical marketing term, a lot of collateral and assets on this, whether it's helping you from the partner side, helping you understand from the customer side. So you'll be getting some things after this call. We have a lot of things out there to help you, whether you're an end user or whether you're a partner. All right, we have a call, a question. Is there a minimum number of lines? And what is our term?
Right, I'll answer that one, depending on the solution, of course, but for our BAlert solution, which is primarily positioned for fire life safety, there is a 2-line minimum for that product, and we do offer terms starting at 2 up to 5 year on that solution. With our CableCo solution, we do not have a line minimum, and that is offered on a 1 year up to a 5 year, and UCAS is on I believe 3 and 5 year pricing for those solutions.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. So what does BullsEye do to ensure clean, quick porting, inventory confirmation, service activation? I know those are all things near and dear to our heart. David, can you share a little bit about that and about, or Paul, either one, that process and what that looks like?
Sure. I can take a stab at that one. You know, it's important that we do that site survey. There's also, you know, before that even, there is a questionnaire that we work with the customer and their agent on to try to fill out and get an understanding of their use case and what equipment they have and how they're using those lines. But a site survey is critical to understanding for sure what they have, and again, understanding if we're using a BAlert solution, what their wireless capabilities are, and making sure that if there's any lines that we need to disconnect, that we're managing to pull those away, things of that nature. But again, it's all about, you know, working together and making sure that we're being transparent with what the solutions are capable of doing. And again, that questionnaire and location site survey are critical.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Hey, Gina, I guess, you know, I'd leave this with everybody. I know we're getting down to the bottom of the hour, and but don't wait and be forced into migration. Start working, start getting your customers. Let us go with you and be a trusted advisor and help the customers through this, but don't wait and let them get forced into migration.
100%, 100%. And I think now more than ever, this is when they need their trusted advisor, right? I mean, they've got to have the person in their corner to help them out.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I did see
All right,
one.
well, go ahead.
I did see one out there which was related to wholesale. While forbearance really does impact, again, our resale in the marketplace, there are shifts that are happening in the wholesale space when it comes to suppliers such as us and many others that are out there. So the same price pressures are in that space as well. They're just not as controlled by the timeline that's associated with forbearance. And we've seen, upwards of 20 to 30% cost increases. That again does manifest in price volatility out there. So either side of that coin is affected by this.
Can you repeat those important dates again, David? I know you touched on those. Will we repeat those again just so we know?
Yeah, I saw that question just come in. So, probably the biggest and most important date is August 2nd, 2022. So next year, this time, August 2nd. So 2022. That's when all discounts can be removed on legacy lines.
Yes.
Thank you. We also have a question from a partner who wants to know if we can create a marketing one-pager. I happen to know a guy that can do that, and co-brand it to use for outreach to their customers. Absolutely, 100%, we will help you with that.
In fact, I think that that person that we're talking to right now, Gina Tony, actually has one of those things available right now.
See, that's what I get for calling you old. See what he does to me? Well, we can definitely get something out quickly. We have so much information on this and so many cool things we already have, and we are happy to co-brand with you. Just reach out. It's gtony@bullseyetelecom.com, and it's TONEY. So just reach out to me.
And I think we got an email when they registered. Could we just automatically send it out to everybody? Is that
sure?
Is that functionally possible?
Sure, absolutely.
Leverage our technology.
Right. Well, we thank you all for the time and really appreciate it. This is a really, really important subject, and hopefully you've got more information or information that you need. You can always reach out to us for more information or visit our website, bullseyetelecom.com. Again, you'll receive a copy of this recording after the call. Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Bye, everybody.